I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:34. And on the agenda is approval of the meeting agenda. And
We need to do roll call.
oh, sorry, yes, we do. Could you do roll call, please?
Sure. Jeff Canberra,
Present.
Bill Gamble,
Present.
Mark Crowley,
Present.
Andrew Dawson, Benjamin Scott. Okay, he's not here, not online.
No.
Joe Broadhurst. Not here, not online. Cole Sexton.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Great, thank you.
Physically present.
Item number 2 is approval of the meeting agenda. And I would like to move item 5 with everyone's permission to after item 7, so we get the important things done. Do I hear a motion?
I'll second that.
But I should be making the motion.
You don't need a board vote to move agenda item from 5 to 7. It's not something that's in Robert's rule of order, right? You just have an agenda item. You can take the items in whatever order you want to take.
Well, okay,
Well,
well, let's,
I agree that it is the chairperson's discretion to move an agenda item.
well, then I'll accept that. If there's no objection, we could move item 5 to past item 7. Hearing no objection,
We still need a vote.
yes, but we still need a vote. And we need a motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, I don't believe, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Okay.
Okay, public comment, non-agenda items. Don't see or hear any. Item 4, approval of the August 14th minutes. Are there any corrections to the August 14th minutes? So I think there's one correction at the very beginning, item number 1, where it says call to order and roll call. It just said Chair Crowley, I believe it should say Chair Canberra.
Oh, my bad. Yep.
No, that's what happens when we cut and paste, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any other changes? And I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes of August 14th. Motion.
second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay,
For the record, Joe Broadhurst is here.
you're welcome.
Aye.
We'll give you a second to
Just get my
settle
pen.
in.
Yeah, thank you.
So the only, we just got through the kind of procedural stuff, but we moved item 5 to appear after item 7.
Okay.
And with that, I believe that we're on to item 5 of the agenda, presentation of the proposed points of item 6, annual report discussion and approval. Okay, Marcus, this is your.
I move to amend the annual report as is presented here. A couple of minor amendments. Is there a second?
Well, we don't have, there's not even a motion to amend at this point. There probably should be a presentation, and then we could make a motion to do whatever it would be.
There. The discussion would be after a motion to approve the minutes or to amend the minutes.
So we
Since
can,
this is an action item.
so you can make the motion.
Okay. I move to amend the this annual report
move to amend it. It hasn't been voted on yet, right?
It hasn't been
It hasn't
presented.
been voted on, presented, so we can make changes during the presentation. But you don't have to make a motion to amend, because it's it's just the presentation, it's not, it's
Okay.
not.
Okay, so, why don't you, move to,
Nobody has to move.
No,
We should just go into the
Yeah,
presentation.
go to the.
Yeah,
And
and
then
you
make
should
the
go into the
changes.
presentation and then make a motion.
You
Yeah.
can make a motion for changes.
all right.
So whatever would happen at the committee, and do you have a recommendation for the full committee?
Okay, I'll present, what we have here. And, for the most part, this is a draft by Andrew, largely by Andrea, through the,
By the committee.
by the committee.
Just a committee.
Yes, by the committee. And, I think that is pretty good. The first item I want to talk about is that, it says that this is the, annual compliance report. And actually, what the education code says is that we shall make an annual report to the public. And one of the items in the annual report to the public would be a statement of compliance. So this is not an annual compliance report. This is an annual report to the public. So that's one of them. Another is that, that it is nice and short. The fact that it is addressing current members, which is in the fiscal year 2024-25, 25-24. I think that it should be it should be the annual report for fiscal year 24-23. So that is the year that I was the chairperson. And that is the year that most of these pictures are taken. That is the year that, that these members were there. And the most important thing is that when the public reads this, we want them to be interested in relevant, late published information, not looking back, oh, I can skip that, that's 2 years old. So yes, there is the fiscal
The report is based on what happened in the time period. That should be included in the
Okay,
report.
mark yourself. Mark
Well, nobody's interrupting,
okay.
right?
Okay, so, so the time period that we're reporting for is last fiscal year. And in last fiscal year, we received a annual audits from the previous fiscal year, and we accepted them, and we're letting the public know that we approved them. So that's what I wanted to say. So it's only a matter of the title of this document.
Great, okay, are there any other comments? Thank you.
Well, so if it's, I guess, if it's a matter of the title, I mean, I personally don't have a problem if, we take the word compliance out. We didn't discuss that at a committee meeting, and as a group, we said we were going to recommend a report that is here in front of us with, and we didn't discuss any changes, which the idea when we came to the committee meeting, that the three of us had, was to make those changes and come to cooperation and put this forward. To me, that's a minor thing though, and if other folks don't mind that, I don't care if that word comes out of there, even though I actually think that it is the report to the taxpayers, so it is, that's the word, that's why the word compliance is there. But.
He didn't take compliance out, he just moved it. He just rearranged the sentence. It's the annual report of the compliance.
No, he
it
doesn't,
didn't.
he wants to take it out. So, so the thing is, what I'd like to, and then I'm not quite understanding what you're saying about the membership, because this report is for the fiscal year 22-23. That is what this report is for, because that is the audit, financial performance audit that we got.
No, it's not. You said that numerous times. No, this is the annual report to the public. And we are giving the public the most recent information that we have. And the most recent information that we have is from the previous fiscal year, Peralta fiscal year. But nevertheless, it is a report to the public on our most recent year. So there are two different fiscal years there, and it is our report to the public about our most recent year.
So are you proposing any changes to the draft that we got? I want to clearly
I'm
understand.
proposing that the fiscal year is 23-24.
Okay, that is.
Yes, and the word compliance can be stricken. And that sentence will say, annual report to the public.
Okay. Right. You,
Thank you. I just wanted to provide some commentary around the fiscal year issue. The fiscal year traditionally of CBOCs, or in this case BMOCs, and the district are one and the same, July 1 to June 30th. The most recent audit report you have is for 22-23. We are still auditing 23-24, and it will not go to our board for approval till December. So the BMOC still does not have a 22-23 annual report, which is required to be done. Sometime around January, you will have to do a 23-24 annual report. So currently, we're a little behind in doing this report. So we will have to do 2 annual reports this year to get us called up to where we need to be.
Yeah.
So I just want to provide that context.
So I think that our annual report should reflect that we're reporting for the Peralta fiscal year of 2022-23. That the audits for that year. But nevertheless, our committee is reporting to the public for what we did. We're not reporting to the public what we did 2 years ago. We're reporting to the public everything we want the public to know that happened in the last year.
not the 22-23 year. You want to go beyond the end of the fiscal 2023 year? Is that what you're suggesting?
You know, let me clarify it a little bit here. We have a duty to report to the public every year. And let's say the annual audits were 2 years late. We would still be reporting to the public on time about audits that were 2 years late. As it is, I think we should be reporting to the public everything that happened during our fiscal year. And one of the things that happened during our fiscal year was that we received audits for the previous fiscal year. So it has nothing to do with the most recent or the future fiscal
Okay.
annual audits.
I think I understand. Jill, you had your hand up?
No, it's okay.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we just call it the 2006 Measure A, 2018 Measure G. Annual report fiscal year 2022-2023 dated today.
Well, that's what
Does that serve your?
the date, up here.
Understand.
That is how we have it.
Does that serve what you are trying to do? You're trying to show that we've done this work in this year, right?
Well, I still disagree with your premise. I think that, but if we wanted to include that it is for the annual audits for 22-23, that's okay.
How about, you should write out how you want to tackle it.
Okay,
Just write it out, right? And then we can
Take a motion.
take a motion from there.
okay.
Because, I mean, the nuance here is rather ridiculous, but just write it out.
Well, okay. So I don't think it's frivolous
I
because.
think it's frivolous because it's ridiculous.
No,
Oh, I don't think it's ridiculous
Can you
either.
write it
That's
up?
why you write it out. You're
Okay.
just saying, and nobody has a written word
Okay.
of what you're trying to say.
In fiscal year 2023-24. Fiscal year 2023-24.
That year doesn't
It
exist.
here doesn't exist. We haven't had the audit yet.
It does exist for us.
That's-
It,
We
it, it,
spent an
it
entire
quite
year.
literally doesn't exist.
Because the board hasn't,
Yeah.
the board hasn't ratified the audit. Until the board ratifies the audit, this committee can't ratify the audit.
Okay, so I see the problem. And the problem is if our sole mission is to receive the annual audits and tell the public about the annual audits, what we think about the annual audits, you're exactly correct. But I don't think that is our sole mission. I think our sole mission is to scrutinize what the Peralta district is not only doing with the money, but how things are going. And there's other things that could be possible that we wanted to report about other than the audits. And we are reporting about other things than the audits. We're reporting about construction progress. So we have more to report than just the annual audits.
Okay, so I think, does everybody understand before we move on to it? So Andrea, you had your hand up and then Jill, you had yours.
Well, we discussed this in our committee meeting, and we came away with this report with not a lot of dissension from anyone. And I thought we did have an understanding that this is the compliance report, which for fiscal year 22-23. And so I would like it to be presented as that and voted on as that, because I don't see a way that we could change this to reflect otherwise. And I'll give an example. If the district didn't do a financial and performance audit at all, and they were remiss a whole year late in doing one, our annual report for that fiscal year would say they are out of compliance. They didn't do a report. They were out of compliance. We would have to put a report together that said that to the taxpayers and the public. So that's why I stand with exactly how this is written.
Okay, Jill.
Well, just in hearing what Marcus says, it sounds like timing is off between when we have our report that is due versus the accounting report that comes from the district. So it seems like potentially having a title that says, annual committee report to the public would satisfy where we are at that point in time, plus encumber any other issues that might be outstanding or any other things that want to be mentioned that Marcus is talking about outside of financials. And then potentially in January, because I heard January was a month, right?
Mhm.
And I see for our plan. So we have to figure that out. But in January, there could be a follow-up to the annual report that satisfies the compliance financial side of it, if that aligns with what the district is doing. So there's two ways to go about it, and I think that maybe that satisfies what Marcus is talking about, but then it also, from a financial standpoint, satisfies what we're required to do per the ordinance.
I,
I agree.
So I just want to say the reason that we've always put report out in the spring is because the statute says we need to receive it on or before March 31st. Many districts don't get it to you until January, and you usually decide on a subcommittee then. You don't necessarily have to have a meeting to decide on who the subcommittee is going to be to write the annual report. But then you're writing the annual report in March and April, generally speaking, for the presentation, for the discussion for this committee. So we are behind this year because we definitely should have done it before there was any people turning out and new people coming on. So that's why it's good for March or April to have the report. But that's something that, is done as a subcommittee. So that's what I would say about, we're late this year, but we're
So Marcus, this is the last comment.
I agree with what Jill said. Also, one of the things that Andrea said is that, we agreed to all of this in the subcommittee. Well, after the subcommittee, I talked to a CPA to see whether my ideas are wacky or whether they're spot on. And he explained that, no, I am exactly right. What I'm suggesting as for our annual report is exactly right. And one more thing is that this is supposed to be an independent oversight committee. So I don't see that Andrea is addressing this staff member over here as part of our meeting. It seems to me that it is out of line.
I don't recognize it as being out on this, kind of beside the point. Can you restate the wording that you had suggested and did everybody listen to it? Just for the title.
Yeah, I just said annual committee report to the public. Instead of what it was. And so that would meet, the traditional, what we're looking for in terms of the timeline for this presentation. And then later on, do you want me to talk about that? Later on, and we had talked about January, that was brought up in January, that we would have the annual report kind of catch up. I don't know what the right term is, but essentially it would just be aligning financially with all the work that has been done by the district.
Right. So this for our purposes, what Jill just said, would that satisfy everybody? Does anybody object to that language?
It's gonna say the annual compliance
You
report.
have to
to the
time, you
public,
have to
right?
have the time frame that it's.
I think the time frame stays the same. It's just the title, I think we're just talking the
Yeah,
title.
annual committee report
Well,
to
the
the public.
committee is
Sure.
already.
Yes, yes.
I just want to be respectful of Mr. Crawley's comments about being an independent. This is just an observation that this committee historically has followed the fiscal year format. And this is the latest report that this committee has submitted for the public. And if we were to skip 23, 24, there may be some confusion. So I just want to acknowledge the historical precedent that this committee has set in the past.
So, can I do that?
Yes,
So I think to Mr. Crawley's point, he's trying to make it more timely, right, to the public. So this would be a change, yes. But then perhaps there would be an additional document that basically connects the previous links to now the new way that we're doing it. And it's a one pager or something like that, that encapsulates what is missing to get us caught up to this new way. That's all I'm saying from a time-based perspective.
Can I make one more
Okay.
comment?
No, I'd like to get a motion on the table so that we can then do amendments. Will somebody make a motion?
I object to that, request for a motion. I think it is a violation of Robert's Rules of Order. I think that, Robert's Rules of Order says that, the committee can discuss something as long as they want. There is no time limit. There is no limit to, oh, you've talked twice and that's all you get to talk. The Robert's Rules of Order says that, that we continue a vigorous discussion.
Unless somebody makes a motion. And I motion that we accept your title as your statement. I second.
Okay, we have a vote.
Just point of parliamentary inquiry.
Yes.
I know Robert's rule really well. You need a motion to close debate.
All right.
A motion to close debate, and then you can do the next motion to do the vote.
I motion to close debate. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Andrea?
Yes.
Jill?
No.
Okay, we need to record that.
Oh, and you're.
You have to vote.
No, yes,
Okay.
sorry.
So the motion passes to close debate 4-2.
My
Yes.
second motion is that we, take the title as we stated. To keep, and, however the process was in, to keep.
As presented.
continuity As presented. Keep continuity as it's been presented before.
Do I have a second? The second. Okay. You ready for the vote? Okay. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
No.
No.
Okay, yes.
Motion carries.
Anyone before you're done. On to the meeting schedule and topics. Andrea, Joe, this is yours.
So. We'll do this together. So, yeah, I think we discussed it back and forth via email and we both have some comments on it. And, basically, if we, this is a work plan, let's be clear about that. So it can be changed at the majority vote of the committee, or I actually made, an error. I don't know if you read it this way, Jill, or not, but or is determined by the chair. So in other words, if we need a January meeting, because we're gonna go ahead early to do a annual report, then in November or even December, I mean, chair would call for a January meeting. So by changing this to or down here, or as determined by the BMOC chair, it really doesn't change the rhythm of this document. It just gives some flexibility based on what our charge is, and that is to review the annual performance, fiscal and performance audits, and write the report. So I don't, other thoughts on that?
No, that's fine. I think just as long as it's being flexible with dates, because while we acknowledge that, like, obviously holiday time is November, December, January potentially, or summertime is potentially June, July, August, Andrea actually slated months, but that might potentially not be the will of the body when it comes down to it. Maybe they want to move it to June, July versus August or whatever it is. So that would just be a discussion item a couple months prior to, and that would be amended. So that's fine.
Yeah, I think they're either way, that is either the committee can do it or somebody, if I'm the chair, can come in and say, we think this is more efficient, then we don't even need to bring it before the committee for a time constraint, so. All right, any discussion? Yeah,
Yeah. Is this discussion time?
yes.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't think that, we need, this is a solution to a problem that we don't have. looking back for 5 years, we've never needed, future guidance from a previous, committee. And to put the burden on a future committee that in order to establish dates of meeting, meetings, that we have to overcome some procedure. I think that is the wrong approach. I think that the committee should decide if they want to, if they want to cancel next month's meeting, they can cancel next month's meeting. But to say, oh, for all the future, we're not going to have meetings on this and such unless you overcome what Andrea's already said, I think it's bad democracy.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Yes.
Andrea and Jill, I commend you on this. I think it's good work. Appreciate you guys laying it out this way. As a new member. Right. And it's helpful to, help me, schedule when I can and can't be here for future meetings. So, I motion to close discussion on this. And then I'm going to motion to accept that.
So I think we still have opportunities if anybody else would like to speak.
Yeah, I was just say like, I think it's helpful for new members to see something like this, and it doesn't mean anything's in stone, Marcus. I think that a lot of this can be moved around and, of course, yes, it's a vote, but, I think that, it's helpful for people, given the fact that, you're not necessarily given a lot of, manuals or anything when you start up as a new member. So to see something like this and say like, okay, this is like what we're going to be tasked with potentially as a framework, I think that that's very helpful. It can be changed, and as well as when you don't meet can be changed depending on the body, who, what their schedules are and what works for everybody. So I think it's helpful in that way. And there was one other point I had, but it's escaping me right now. So. As well as additions can be put to the agenda as well, as this framework. So I think it's nothing, I don't see this as a set in stone document. I just see it as a framework for newbies and for people that are already there that have gone through it, as far as like what the goals are for that certain time period.
Based on Jill's reasoning, it seems more reasonable now to me than it did a little while ago.
Okay, so I have one clarification then is on this last bullet point at the bottom, the and is an or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, want to be clear that the and is an or. All right, are there any other points that people would like to make? If not, then I accept a motion to end our discussion.
Motion to end session.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous?
I abstain.
Marcus abstains, and I vote yes. Okay, with that, we'll
I
accept.
motion to accept it.
A point of order, Mr. Chairman. When we discussed the annual report, we skipped the public comment on that.
Oh. Okay. We should
Public,
go,
the public change?
no, we should go back. It was an action item, so.
Did the public?
No, oh, no, we did not skip public comment.
You only have to have public comment once.
No,
You
for
don't have to have
the,
it before every action.
no, for each action item, you need to have public comment.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't need it.
Well, is there public comment?
Anyway, well, the general practice that I know is having public comment if the body.
It's practice and it's what's required. You only have to have public comment once. If somebody wants to raise their hand during an action item, you could acknowledge that person. You don't have to say, is there public comment on every action item?
I'd like to chime in on that,
Actually, this is a procedural matter.
on a procedural matter.
Yeah, I don't think we need to have this discussion because there's no Is there anybody from the general public here tonight at all?
I,
Just, can we finish, please?
I mean, the short answer is no.
And is there anybody in the room?
yes, I have a comment. I would like to
Anybody
make
from the public?
Public.
From the public.
during the public comment period before item number 6. So before each item, the public can talk about anything they want. They make comments about that agenda item.
You're not the public though.
I am.
No, you're not. You're a committee member.
Everybody is
Committee
part of the
member.
public.
Committee member. You're not the public.
So, I just understand what your point is. Do you feel we need to go back on the item that we just approved?
I would like to make a comment. Prior to starting agenda item number 6 during the public comment period.
Jeff, run the meeting.
So,
Run the
you,
meeting, Jeff.
just give just a minute, I get, because these points of procedure, I wanted to have an attorney that makes the final call, as opposed to any of us, because none of us are legal representatives that can make that definitively. But I am gonna turn to staff who has more experience than us. And do you have any guidance?
In my recollection, you already have a vote on item number 6, is that correct?
Yes,
Then
It's
then
done.
the floor is closed. Once
It's
you made a
done.
vote, you have to make a motion to reopen the floor, reconsider the previous vote on that item. If there's a motion to reopen by majority, then you can have a discussion. If there's not, then the chair must move on.
The matter is closed. All right, so the proper procedure would be to ask if there is a,
If the person wants to make a motion to reopen discussion on the previous item that's been approved, then you can so do that.
So that's one question. Let's ask him one more question.
let's finish this one, please.
Okay, so I agree with what he just said.
So are you making
Uh,
a motion?
So I withdraw my comment about item number 6.
Okay. Where are we right now?
We need to, vote on the, work plan.
Thank
So
you.
the
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Gamble moved and we were waiting for a second.
Second.
Objection. Before we start on agenda item number 5, we're supposed to allow any public person to make a comment about agenda item number 5.
And we just confirmed that there's nobody on the public here, so can we go ahead and take a vote?
And
No,
Well,
I'm sorry.
interrupting.
Excuse me. Now, I'm gonna finish this. Excuse me, we have a motion and we have a second. We are going to take the vote. That's what we're doing now.
the vote for what?
What was your motion, please?
This is a vote to accept the meeting schedule as,
the work plan.
the work.
The work plan.
Oh,
Yes.
excuse me, I thought we passed that.
All right. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor of approving the work plan?
I abstain.
Okay, abstain. All right,
Didn't we just have that vote a few minutes ago?
no, it was to terminate the discussion. Okay, we've done with that. So now we're moving on to presentation of proposed points and procedures. And this is something that I put together based on some research that I've done and what other bodies are doing.
Point of order,
Yes,
I believe that before each item, there is an invitation for any public person to say something about that agenda item.
I don't believe there is.
We've been doing it that way for years. So let's just ask him his opinion on this.
It's at the discretion of the chair if you want to open for agenda items, open comment for the public on each individual item. You've already done an approval on the public comments for non-agenda items. Since there's no public present, the members of the committee have a right to discuss the item as it's being reviewed and discussed. the members of the committee are traditionally not considered members of the public because you have a standing voting right on the committee. Public does not have a right to vote on items on the agenda. The board does. So in that realm, the members would have a discussion during the discussion period or make a motion to amend the item. The public cannot make that comment.
Right. This kind of goes to point number 7 that I had put together for the proposed points and procedures. So with that said, and first of all, just so we have our discussion, each of these paragraphs, if you would mind numbering them, I had a version that was numbered, but somehow I didn't get it here. So the BMOC agenda is item number 1. All questions regarding would be number 2. The BMOC as prepared would be item number 3. Only the actual agenda would be item number 4. Written reports of subcommittees would be item number 5. Opportunities for public comment would be number 6. And if you could add in one thing, after the word BMOC, it should be non-agenda, not agenda. Number 6, opportunities for the public to comment on BMOC non-agenda
Oh,
items will only be available to members of the public attending the meeting in person. And that was my fault. All right, and then,
Apologies for the printout. I think it only has the page 1 of the document in what was printed out. Sorry about that.
well, okay, and then number 7 is for each agenda item, which kind of covers the procedure for how we would discuss action items. Then the second page was simply something that was kind of a checklist for us, for those that were not going to appear.
I don't see a second page.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
said that it's not been printed out. It's on the screen.
So it's on the screen.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize because it only picked up the first page. in the printout.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what this is just basically an informal, well, it's actually formal, a checklist, so that depending on how a person is going to appear remotely, these are the requirements that they would have to make in order to participate remotely. So we've seemed to have some confusion in the past, and so this is a kind of little cheat sheet for everybody.
And so how soon are, with the vote, is this going into effect immediately or what
Well,
would this be doing?
technically, that is already in effect.
Oh,
That is
okay.
just a summary of the requirements of the Brown Act for appearing remotely.
But the use of the form would be going into effect.
At this point, I think it's just a checklist. We could use that as a form. It's mostly for individuals,
Okay.
really, more than anything else. Any way you can satisfy the requirements, I don't think, you don't have to fill the form out per
Okay.
se.
Okay,
But it's helpful because if you're attending remotely, it has to be on the agenda.
Well, you have to check each box, right, of knowing what, did you, depending on how you're doing, you can look and check that little box and say, yes, I have the agenda posted on my front door, or wherever it would be.
And it has to be open to the public.
Yeah, all of those things. So these should be an accurate representation of what the Brown Act requires from each of us. Okay. And I was trying to figure out how we might want to do this more efficiently, because I'm sure there'll be some people that have some comments, they're gonna want to wordsmith this, and I was trying to figure out if we could do any batches, but I think I'm just gonna turn around and open up each individual item to have a quick discussion on to see what people think. So the first one is moving the posting of the agenda from Sunday night to Friday. That basically is for the convenience of staff. And also to give at least me a little more time to go through the packet, because during the week, if I get it on Sunday night or Monday, I sometimes don't have the time to go through and be ready by Wednesday. Yes.
just to comment on that, could we add what the actual requirement is? Because in other words, if for some reason it doesn't post on Friday night, it doesn't mean we're not gonna have the meeting. If it posts on Saturday or by 5 o'clock on Sunday, you're still within the time
That
requirement.
is correct, yes.
So if we added, that to this bullet point here, then we would
So
we
this
would
is-
have an understanding.
Okay.
Huh? we would have an understanding that it doesn't mean we're not gonna have the meeting
Right.
if it doesn't
Wait.
post.
So with something like this does not preclude the committee from posting an agenda within the 72-hour requirement.
Yes. I think something like that should be up.
And then an extension of the explanation would be typically, we have a meeting on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Therefore, the deadline for posting the agenda is Sunday at 5 o'clock. You're trying to be more generous with preparation time. So that takes a lot of the mystery out of what are we talking about deadlines.
That's great.
Yes, Bart.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that Jeff has requested this and I think it's great from the staff perspective. Nobody likes to log in on Sunday afternoon and, do stuff. And it was our best intention for that to happen and get it out this Friday, but I was on vacation and one of the staff member on my team that I assigned to post was out sick. So,
There you go.
so I was the safety net, checking email on the weekend and got it out. We still met the Brown Act requirements for 72 hours notice, but I do appreciate the committee for thinking of staff and having this as a Friday timeline. Appreciate it.
So just from the language standpoint, I'm going to suggest this does not preclude the committee from posting the agenda in compliance with the Brown Act. Would that be sufficient that we don't say 72, just say, so if the Brown Act ever changes for some reason?
I think I'd like to see the statements that I included. For example, presently, we have our meeting at 5 o'clock, 5:30 on Wednesday, and therefore the Brown Act requires the agenda be posted by Sunday at 5 o'clock within 72 hours. So that gives a little bit more understanding and not so much theory.
So if I added after the Brown Act, then with,
Can be
as required, I'm trying to think of what language would be. So how can we just add to, within compliance with the Brown Act, which would require posting the agenda no later than Sunday at 5:30? Would that?
I would like to, the sentence to start out, for example. And examples are easy to understand. Presently, for example, our meetings have been Wednesday at 5:30. Therefore, the 72 hours in advance would be Sunday at 5:30.
But
Okay, go ahead, yes.
so I think you have to figure a way to wordsmith this, that it basically doesn't lock you in, because then if you want to change the meeting date, to just say you decide to change, and then we have to change this document
No, we
too.
don't.
Well,
I just said, for example, just an example. It says, for example, right now, we do presently. So it's not, it doesn't apply if, the dates don't, Sunday 5:30 doesn't apply if we change the date of the meeting.
okay. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I figure my son in school.
Okay,
So that's my suggestion.
so for example, the committee agenda is presently due on Sunday at 5:30 PM. Is that a sufficient, as an addition?
Yeah, how about adding to that, right, due to our present schedule of meetings at 5:30 on Wednesday.
It's based on, I mean, use word based on.
For example, the committee agenda is presently due on Sunday at 5:30 PM due to our present committee meetings of Wednesday at 5:30.
Right.
Okay. All right, so I guess we're gonna go ahead. I think we should then, we still have to end the discussion in order to, so I need a motion to end the discussion.
So are you leaving the Friday off of this entirely then? Are you leaving the Friday posting off of this entirely then?
No, it was that, this was an addition. So the BMOC agenda will be posted on the Friday before.
Votes on a single agenda item?
Well, I don't, or you have something, I'm just concerned about,
It only, so the question is, that does there have to be multiple votes? There's only one vote on the action item. But you can have other parliamentary votes and motions on amendments, closing discussion, tabling items. You can, before you ever get to the action item itself.
so we can wordsmith each one of these and then take one motion to accept it as reworded. Okay,
For, just for, not the sake of time for this meeting. I mean, we can continue to discuss it here, but just for, time, if we just made this available, all members have access to this document, they can just send it, or you can make it an open document online, and then they can type it up, reword it as they see fit, and submit it back to you for approval. Is that something that's acceptable?
instead of having this all discussed tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that, just because it's the first time we're seeing it, so it allows us to kind of just go
Sure.
over it.
Okay,
If you have suggestions on, I would say you started off, like with what if these are, their suggestions you're making to this document, or maybe this is your whole idea,
sure, all right, so we can pull the item from the agenda then.
So this was only going to be a discussion item anyway, right?
No, it was gonna be action if we could do it.
Well, it's pretty complex set of ideas for us to wrap our wits about and vote intelligently in one read through. So I think that it is a long way from ready for action item.
so you agree with what we're saying?
So, did they?
Yeah.
And to put it up online and we can just all discuss it and add our comments to it before the next
Right,
meeting.
so I think you just need a motion to carry this on to the next
I
meeting.
move that we do that to the next meeting and just have it publicly available for committee members.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, on to new business. Is there any new business? Yeah, okay.
Two things. One is that several times in the past, and in this meeting as well, members have objected to long-winded discussions. And like, our time is so valuable that we gotta really get to it or leave, just like he did. We've already committed ourselves to 2 hours worth of valuable time. So I don't see that it's relevant to be objecting to in-depth discussions that don't crowd our 2 hour commitment. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay.
Okay, last meeting, we talked about, some, future, agenda items. And one of the agenda items that I think that we should talk about is PLAs, public,
Labor agreements.
Labor agreements.
project labor agreements.
Mhm.
We've never talked about that, so that is just one item. I do think that Peralta has project labor agreements. And whether those project labor agreements are in the best interest of the public or not, we should discuss that. If the only issue of a project labor agreement is to make sure that there's never a strike, yeah, well, that's in the best interest of the school, the taxpayers, and the public. If the project labor agreement is somehow or other precludes bidding by minority contractors or non-union contractors, such that there are conditions with project labor. We should know about that. We should be aware. We've never had that discussion. So I suggest that we, in the next month or two, we schedule a couple of people, one possibly from the district that would know about the Peralta project labor agreements, and one from somebody else who might disagree with him, so that we can understand it and report to the public what we understand. And that is one of the reasons why I say that the purpose of this committee is to report to the public about a host of things, not simply, here's pretty pictures, and did the annual report say everything's fine? I think that we need to report to the public on what we think is in the best interest of the public.
Okay. So I've noted that as a request.
Okay,
So I'd like to go to our work plan, maybe next month's meeting. Ask that we are provided all the Peralta BMOC governance documents as the district sees it. Obviously, it will be coming to us as they see it. Okay? Presentation of the BMOC. And I'm not asking for that to be lengthy, but that would be the bylaws, the code of conduct, the board resolution that put the bylaws into place and the amendments to those bylaws. It shouldn't be a long discussion item, but I think for a new member, like if we had more than one new member, it's something that I think we should kind of do every year. So, and the next thing is, that we get a report on construction progress and spending. So we get a construction and expenditures report. And I think for the first one, rather than it only be on certain schools, I think it should be overall, because generally speaking, if it's an overview that is basically hits the highlights. And in other words, I'll put it this way: you have big projects listed, and then you have just say restroom renovations district-wide, and there's a line item there. Then you have repaving projects district-wide, and there's a line item in it, and it shows. So I think it's something that could be presented by
Staff.
your group, the staff, on the overall where we are in the whole program, okay, and along with the expenditure report. So I'd like to request that come either next month or the following, depending on what kind of feedback you get on what they would see as you know, how they would need to package that for presentation, so we can all digest it.
Well, yeah, it's summertime, there's a lot of construction that goes on, and I think it's good that we get a report, so I'll work with staff to see if we can get something together with the next meeting. Joe?
Well, just to tag on actually with both what Andrea was saying and what Marcus was saying, I think if there's any, not so much governance documents, but also any Peralta policy docs surrounding contractors, or people that work with the projects, that would be helpful too, because that might dictate why choices were made. And if we see it, you know, written down and basically potentially their reasoning for why they're doing what they're doing, that's an actual document, if you will call it that, that might be helpful as well. So for example, if there is a document that says that, you know, Peralta's policy is that, you know, effective 2022, they decided to work with all union labor. And that's what they're deciding to do for these types of projects, then that would be a good thing to know. And that could be a document that's presented to us, and then we know why things are the way they are.
Right.
So it seems to me that would be the project labor agreement, because it will have all the parameters and the regulations in the adopted project labor agreement.
Well, only the differentiating is that, what I'm talking about is more of the higher level of like, if we are going to take a project as the Peralta Community College district, it's under the conditions of this. So it's like the general kind of like overview of it. It's not necessarily the same what the PLA
It's
is.
pre-planned.
Yeah.
So I would just recommend, if y'all have questions about procurement, you just make a procurement agenda item, because all these things are around procurement,
Yeah.
which is state law, et cetera.
I kinda
Just
have
so,
it-
just so the board knows, the district does not use non-union labor. It's actually illegal. It's against state law. We have to use union labor as a public agency, contract code, especially in the Bay Area.
Do you know when that came into effect? Or has that
Oh,
always been that
Been
way?
like that since like early nineties.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that's good to know, because that might not be something that's ever entered into discussion.
Yeah, and even if we have a non-union contractor, they have to pay union wages. So they still have to meet prevailing wages at local union halls. So it's still basically
Yeah,
union.
I think your suggestion of just general
A
procurement.
general
is a-
procurement
is a
issue, if you want to
really
put the
touchy
PLA
area.
under there, if you want to
Yeah,
put
that's
the,
good.
the small minority business issues, what we call meaty weebies, the minority owned, veteran owned, you know, women owned. If you want to put all that in the same bucket, I'm happy to do a presentation based on your questions. Y'all want to send me ahead of time, and I'm happy to give you a presentation on how that
Okay.
works.
Okay, that's a lot of items for new business, so I don't see these all being on the next agenda, just to let everybody know. Cole and then Marcus.
So, given how, just from my perspective, how the past meetings have been ran all the way up until now, I understand that this body does exist for the review oversight of PCD, PCCD. But I also like to, this is me personally, I, like to see things ran orderly and functionally, and I understand that this body does exist for deliberation and debate. What I'd like to propose, and I'm not exactly sure how to articulate or word this, but maybe if there can be some type of, I don't want to say adversarial, but like contrarian contribution or response to maybe what the general body has agreed on or is in deliberation on, and maybe can submit that to the rest of this BMOC moving forward. So whether or not that we need legal representation, or whether it's an agenda item that somebody doesn't agree with or doesn't like how the vote went, in a way to just kind of serve as like a documentation that can form as some type of dissent, so that we can keep things orderly moving forward, discuss it in a healthy way, and not go off the rails. So that way we're not having long diatribes about, what someone thinks, or they come off as personal attacks, or if, there is just a general consensus among several members and that isn't shared, who don't share the same ideas, beliefs, and values about how a vote went on something else. So again, not fully sure how to form that or what to call that, but just something to have, whether it's legal or otherwise, something that dissenting members or parties can put forward for how we move about going to things. So that way it's documented and shown to the public, and we can also take that under deliberation.
So why don't you include those comments in the procedure, the suggestions for the.
The proposed points of procedure.
Yeah,
That's gonna be an open document
yeah.
for us to chime in on.
Well, we gotta be careful that we can't all access the same document. That would be a serial meeting. So all the comments can come back into one location and then assembled that way.
So over time being, I'll share that with the chair and vice chair, and
And we can incorporate it in the the points of procedure, so. All right, Marcus, you got your hand up?
So are you requesting that this committee have independent legal advice?
I'm not making that request. I am merely putting an idea forward right now.
And I understand, yeah.
When parties or bodies think that it's required within this committee, that it be publicly shared with the committee prior to an actual discussion.
Exactly.
Okay, sounds okay. It's not vague, it's vague enough that I don't really understand how it applies, but it sounds fine.
I think
to
what
me.
he's saying is it's for the purpose of efficiency in terms of running.
Yeah, which was the points of procedures to be, but I think it fits squarely within that, so your comments can go in there,
Understood.
right? You're right.
If I may, since we got plenty of time, I would like to make one more comment.
We're on new business at the moment.
Yeah.
So is this a new business item you want us to discuss?
It is a new business item I want to discuss.
Okay, what is the suggestion?
I think we should discuss how this committee is different than other appointed committees. In my opinion, this committee has a unique role. And conclusions that are made about other committees don't necessarily apply to this committee.
Okay. All right, we have a long list. Is there any others? Then it is 6:43 and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.